Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced by North Idaho College located on Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guests.
I am pleased to welcome you to the 7th week in our series titled Americans' 225-Year Journey in Search of Personal Freedoms. Our guest today comes to us from originally Iran. She now is in the United States, lives in the United States, in California. We're very pleased to welcome to our program Parvin Darby. She holds a degree in electrical engineering from Cal State at Northridge. She has a master's degree from University of Southern California. She has a master's or MBA degree from Pepperdine. She wrote a book that's received lots of attention in recent times in our country called The Rage Against the Veil. Even though this series we're doing is about personal freedoms within the United States and the search for them, she has come to our city this same week, and she is speaking at the Human Rights Banquet that is sponsored by the Human Rights Education Foundation, and that foundation has given us permission to speak with our guest today. And even though it's about particularly the issue in Iran, it has a relevance because it deals with freedom. And with that, Parvin Darby, we welcome you to our program. Thank you so much for taking time out while you're in our city to be on our program.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And it's always, I'm so pleased to have our regular panelist, Janelle Burke, and Janelle shall ask the first questions today of our guest.
Welcome to our program. I've had the opportunity to read your book, and I found it fascinating and very interesting. The Rage Against the Veil is about your sister. Can you share with our viewers something about the book? What are you telling in the book?
What I tried to tell in the book was the story of women living under Islamic laws. And even though our parents were not very religious, we were Muslims. My sister and I, as we were told, were 6 days old, where our grandfather made us Muslim girl. And by that meant that we had to be destined to a life of servitude, because in Islamic countries, women have absolutely no rights. The way that it is said, a girl when she is a child is under care of her father, and then she gets married, then she's under the care of her husband. Then if the husband dies and she has a son, she's under care of her son, and so on and so forth. And even in some countries like Saudi Arabia, women don't even have birth certificates or identification cards. Just recently, Saudi Arabia decided to give women ID cards, but only if their husbands or fathers or guardians, somebody, would give them permission to have an ID card. And Rage Against the Veil is not just about my sister. It is about millions and millions of women living under these outdated and old 7th century laws. And that was my purpose when I heard that my sister self-immolated in protest of treatment of women under the Islamic Republic of Iran. I said, this is a story everyone should know. People should know what is happening, because only through knowledge we can change the behavior and the way people treat each other. And that was why I wrote the book.
Thank you. I have also read the book, and thank you very much for sharing your story through the book and then also with us in our community. You also indicate in the book concerning the laws that govern the society and women's status in that society, that when a woman marries, of course, she is to be loyal to her husband, but that the husband or the man can have, and you'll have to explain that, you know the laws well, but can have temporary wives, or for a day or for a week or a month. That, in other words, he doesn't have to have the same kind of loyalty. Is that correct?
That's correct. That is the law. Under the Islamic law, a man can have 4 permanent wives at any time. that doesn't mean 4 wives throughout his life.
In other words, he can determine how long that relationship is.
Right. He can divorce 4 women and then marry 4 more. But at any time, he can only have up to 4 permanent. But in the Shia religion or Shia sect of Islam, beside the 4 permanent wives, the man can have as many as he wants on their temporary basis. And a temporary marriage is basically what I call a religiously sanctioned prostitution. Because a man goes to a woman and says, would you marry me for half an hour, 20 minutes, 2 hours, 5 days, whatever, for $10, $50, whatever. And if the woman says yes, then they are married and they can walk on the street, and this is called the term sighe. And when the time has elapsed, the marriage is annulled, and each one can go their own merry way. And what they say that the purpose of this temporary marriage was because in those times when men traveled and it took a long time, then men had a need to have sex. So Islam made it easy for men to have another woman while they were traveling.
But not for women to have this freedom.
Not for women. There is, we know as that there are many men that are impotent, or they cannot satisfy sexual desire of women, but there is no place in Quran or anywhere in Islam that says what should women do.
Okay. Another question I have, and this has to do with the the dress, because the book is titled The Rage Against the Veil, and I know for our viewers who have not read your book that there is that your sister was a medical doctor, and she was a very successful doctor in Iran, and she'd been in this country too, and that one of the tragedies was that happened to her when she refused to wear the clothing required by law. She lost her position in the end. And I know this is very difficult for you, but she chose to set herself on fire as a protest to what happened in that country. You have with you, I believe, a part of the dress, and so would you explain to this part of the laws and policies within not only Iran but a number of other countries?
I have the full outfit, and if you allow me, I would model it for you. And
okay, if you stand up carefully, because you've got a microphone there, and so if you stand up, I think you'll be okay. If you just
it is. I try to be careful with the microphone. You see, I am very conservatively dressed, modestly dressed, but this is not enough in the Islamic countries. And what women have to wear is and what they asked my sister to wear was, you have to wear this robe, and the robe should not have buttons, because buttons are considered...
You will have to be careful because you can't cover the microphone up, so you may not be able to cut it completely on.
So this is the robe that one has to wear over the dress, and then there is a head a scarf, and women have then to wear this thing over their head, and you got to cover basically all your hair.
We have the microphone problem again, so there we go. We just didn't have it. There we are.
And you have all your hair and everything got to be covered. Mm-hmm. Then we have this thing, and consider in Tehran the weather is awfully hot.
Yes.
It gets to 120 degrees, or in the whole Islamic world, and then women have to wear this thing, which is called chador. In Iran, this is called chador, and one has to wear this and hold it like this. So at all times, one hand is occupied, because
you have to hold it.
You hold it. If you don't, it just slits down.
Sure.
So has to hold this. How can a doctor possibly work with wearing this? Mm-hmm. And many times when women then have to use both hands, they put this in their mouth, between their teeth, which then doesn't allow you to talk properly. And then when this gets, it's rain, snow, mud, and this gets heavy and keeps falling, and the women teeth pull out because they are forced it out. And if think about it, when the child at age 7 has to dress up like this, what it does to them.
Yes.
And my sister believed that this was symbol of the female slavery in the Islamic country, and she refused to wear this. And when she refused to wear this, they fired her from her position as the university professor, and then they came to her private practice and harassed her for the same reason that she refused to wear the Islamic hijab. And they even closed down her private practice one time and put a sign that the doctor doesn't comply with the Islamic hijab, and eventually made life so miserable for her that she decided that death was better than living under these inhumane and oppressive conditions.
Also, with this act that she committed, she also was sending a message that went beyond her own life and beyond her own country. I know that she, as she did this, she talked about long live liberty.
That's right. But my sister was a physician. If she wanted to commit suicide for any other reason than a protest, she could have just gotten herself all kind of prescription on drugs and knew how to die. But she chose to go in the middle of a public square and immerse herself in gasoline and set herself on fire. Was that she wanted to tell the world that what is going on, and this was an act of protest, because when we were younger we had read about the people that protested in Vietnam and these places by this method. And my sister always, again as a physician, she always felt that there were two ways that were the most horrific death for people. One was drowning and one was burning. And I felt that when she chose to die in this manner, I couldn't just sit silent and let it die. I said that my sister's life should not go in vain, and I have to go and do something. And that is why I wrote the book.
Yes.
And the book, many Muslim women have sent me emails or written to me letters that when they read the book, they could identify with it. It was like their own life. Only, they say, with one difference, that my sister and I had the opportunity to get educated and be somebody, but their dreams all died when they were married off at age 14 or 15 and so on. And and that is the thing that was so different between their lives than ours.
Thank you so much, Janelle.
I want to come back to the very early age at which many young women are married in the countries in the Middle East. Your mother in particular, can you share with our viewers the age that she was and how this actually for the rest of her life dictated how she was going to behave?
Our mother was 13 years old. She had not even started her period. She was in the classroom, and they went and yanked her out of her classroom, and they took her into the ceremony, and she had never seen our father.
And how old was he at the time?
He was 33 years old, and our mother tells us when she first saw our father, she panicked and started crying. She got scared of this man. And then, you know, our father shelled some pistachio nuts and gave it to her, and she thought, oh, he was such a nice guy. You know, I mean, this was a child mentality. And now that my mother now is about 79 years old, and it is pathetic to look at her because she is suffering from long-term depression, and her thing is that she never achieved what she wanted to achieve in her life. And I think if our mother had been given the opportunity, she could have been a writer, a politician, a doctor, or an engineer, because this woman is a courageous, she's a smart, intelligent woman, but they burned her. They did not allow her to go to school and learn and follow her dreams. And I don't understand why in the Islamic world it is so important for men to follow their dreams. Why is it that women's dreams have to die and they have to be in the kitchen and cook and raise children? Not that there is anything wrong with that, but you can do it both. I did it both.
Yes, you have a son who's an attorney, I understand,
Yes.
here in the United States. So you've done both. Another story in your book that was very, very pulling at the heartstrings, and it was about a young woman who was trying to assert herself and her independence, and had chosen to wear makeup and came to a tragic end. Would you share that with us?
This is at the beginning, when after we had the revolution, it was outlawed for young girls to wear makeup or talk on the phone or talk to boys. It's a very segregated society. It's just the only time men and women share something with each other is only in the privacy of the bedroom. It is no place else that men and women are together. And what happened was that a month before my sister's death, the young girl had worn makeup, and she was talking in a phone booth, and the police, religious police, just shot her dead in cold blood. And the problem is nobody does anything to it. There are no laws that protects women. And the government says to women, if you want to be protected, just stay at home. And they should not come outside. And one of the things that really bothered my sister was when young girls got arrested, because they could get punished by 50 up to 150 lashes. And this beating, a lot of time parents felt that their daughters would not live through such a punishment. So they would come to my sister, and because she was the most famous psychiatrist in Iran for child and adolescent psychiatrist, and they would beg her to go to court and testify that their daughter is insane, so that this child would not get flogged. And eventually my sister would agree to do this. But afterwards she was so terribly upset with herself, she hated herself, that she said, I just ruined a perfectly healthy young girl's life forever, because I testified in the court of law that she is insane. Now she cannot find a job, she cannot get married, and if the parents cannot get her out of the country, what is this child gonna do? But then the alternative was not so much better, because when young people get flogged like this, sometimes their kidneys stop working and they just die. And the idea that we can teach people morality by force is just outdated 7th century issue, I believe.
Thank you.
You speak about your childhood and growing up in the book, and you talk about it, about your extended family. And one of the questions I have is, how would your lives have been different had you had a sibling brother? There were only the two of you, your sister and yourself, and you both were very accomplished. But how would your life have been different if there had been boys in your household?
Oh, totally different. We wouldn't even get through the 6th grade elementary school, because then the whole family attention would have been on the boy. And even in families that girls are smarter or can do better in a school than the boy, the parents would spend the money on the boy. They send the boy to college, to university, and they want the girl to get married. And this would have been our destiny. What made our father to change his ways were when one day I think he realized that these little girls of his that he just loved so much would one day become someone else's wife. And that man would do to them, to us as his daughter, the same thing he did to our mother. And this was when he made the transition and transformed from a tyrant into a loving husband and father. And that was when he encouraged us to go to school and get educated. And I never forget it that he told me one time, I want you to get educated, be able to stand on your 2 feet, so you never have to ask a man for anything you want. And I think that was the point, that he did not then abuse our mother. And I believe if every man in the world can see women as their daughters, not as their wife, mother, or sister, but as their daughter, because the relationship is different. Men always love their daughter. That's their princess, you know. And if they can look at women as their daughter, they change their ways, and we will get rid of domestic violence altogether. Because I saw my father did it, and and I have seen some of the other men in our family has been able to make this transition. And even my German husband I'm married to, he also made a leap and became much better person toward women. He was never violent toward women, but he became more for promoting women at their jobs and work when he found out what a struggle his daughter had in searching for her dream. And this was something he would never understand till his daughter started doing things. And I think that is something we have to all look for, men to think of women as their daughters.
On this series that we're doing in relation to Symposium at Federal College, we've been looking at, and in some other programs we will, some pioneer women in our own country who helped bring about the right to vote and so forth. What is your, I know what your hope is, but what is your forecast about the changing status of women in the Middle East and the Islamic countries? Do you have hope that some change is coming?
Definitely. There is always change is coming. People are becoming informed. On March 11th in Saudi Arabia, a girls' school caught fire. The religious police would not allow the fire crew to go in because the girls didn't have their hijab abaya on. 14 girls died in this fire. And for the first time in Saudi Arabia, the newspapers and media are talking about this. These girls were somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, and this could have been prevented the fire wasn't that way, and if they had let the fire crew to get inside the school, these children would have all lived. This is outrageous because the girls were not covered. And Muslim women all over the world are realizing that these laws are oppressing them, that these laws have to be changed. And I think one of the biggest problems in the Islamic world is that they were always kept inside, not educated, in the basement. So they never realize what rights and they have in this world. Women don't know they have any right. You see, this is in this Islamic, they say God did us, God made us a woman and we have to submit to the will of God.
Because they were taught that.
They were taught that. So.
We're almost out of time, and I know we have viewers who want to know about your book, The Rage Against the Veil. How can they get your book? Who is the publisher?
The publisher is Prometheus Books, and they are in Buffalo, New York. And the book is, you can order it through Amazon.com, Barnes and Nobles. I can get it through bookstores. And we have some tonight, as you know, in here. Yeah. When we have the book at the banquet.
But the show will air later, and so that they can get it through what you just indicated.
Yes.
Well, certainly both of us have read the book, and I know that it's impacting, and it's in more than one language now too. So it can.
Yes, it was.
And I understand it's going to be in some more languages. On that note, unfortunately, to bring the program to conclusion, we would love to have talked with you more, but Parvin Darby, thank you for coming to our city. Thank you also to the Human Rights Education Foundation for making you available to us, and we wish you good luck, and we know that your book and your other work and your speaking is impacting, and we understand too that you have testified before a congressional committee and that you're going to a conference, we're taping this in April, not too long, a very major conference on dealing with women's issues and women's rights. And again, we thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest has been Parvin Darby, who has written the book, The Rage Against the Veil. Be with us again next week when we'll go discuss, again, another issue about search for freedom. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running entirely college-produced program on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us again at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station.